discussion tonight as we start, okay? And anybody come in late, again, the chat box, in the chat box is the link, and also you can see the code right here in the right-hand corner. So tonight we're going to study chapter 21, chapter 22 of Samuel. So before we get started, I'm just going to read this little background to kind of get us up to where we are. It said, after David slew Goliath, he joined Israel's army and became a great warrior. His fame of the battlefield began to overshadow Saul's. People were beginning to chant the poem. Saul has slain his 1,000 and David has tens of thousands. This angered Saul, and he became extremely jealous to the point that one day he hurled his spear at David. It became clear to David that Saul wanted him dead, so he fled with the help of David's best friend, Saul's son, Jonathan. David spent years on the run hiding and from Saul in the wilderness. While on the run, David accumulated a small army of about 500, and we're going to see that in the text on tonight, of outcasts and outlaws that became known as David's mighty men. So that's going to give us where we are on tonight. So we know that everything hadn't always been bad between Saul and David. And there was a time when even when Saul rejoiced for David's victory over Goliath and the Philistines. So David was later anointed to take Saul's place, but this wasn't due to David's selfishness. It was due to Saul's own behavior. So we know that the Spirit of God departed from Saul and it was replaced by an evil spirit. And we know that also that the Spirit of God then descended on the power upon David. So now that brings us to chapter 21, where we're going to find David on the run, and he a man without a country. He had to lead a life that he always known, and I'm sure it was painful for him because he had to leave his wife, his position, his family, his friend Jonathan, and it was a dangerous time for him. So, but one thing about it, when you anointed by God, God anointed won't be killed. So no matter how great the danger might appear, this time was prepared for David, and all that he was going to, I think, was preparing him to be the ruler over Israel as God anointed king. So we're going to start reading chapter 21, and it says, let me get this so I can see my screen. So it says, David came to Nob, where Amalek. Yes.
You are now the host.
Okay.
Co-host with Sister Lee, that's fine. If you want to pan your video, however you want to do it.
Okay. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So David came to Nob, where Amalek was priest. Amalek was shaken in fear when he met David. Why are you alone? Why no one's with you? He asked. David answered Amalek, the priest. The king has given me orders, but he instructed me don't let anyone know anything about the mission I'm sending you on or about your orders. As for my troops, I told them to meet me at an undisclosed location. So at this particular time, we got David here coming to the house of the Lord, and he's running, he's in danger. But one thing, he basically came in and said that he was on a special mission for the king. And so this was just an outright lie. David lied. And so David came into the house of the Lord to be protected or to protect himself. So sometimes we may think that it's okay to tell a lie for a purpose or a good reason, but there's never a good reason to tell a lie. So David here tells a lie to protect himself. And some people may think it's okay. So I just want y'all opinion about that. And you can type, if you look at the bottom of your screen after you join the link, it's going to say answer the question. So I'm going to ask you all to hit answer the question, and it's not going to show me your response. Who made the response? It's just going to give me the response. So give me, what do you think David was justified for lying to save his life? Let me hear what you all have to say. And I'm going to ask the grown-ups, if you're joined, do the same. And once you hit it, hit done, and then we'll see your response. Somebody said I would say no. So most people saying no. Somebody response say I would say no. I mean, God can always find another way, and I totally agree with that. Okay, let me see what's saying in the chat box. Somebody saying no and no and no. Okay, good. So anybody want to elaborate on why they say no? And I'm glad no one said yes, because nowhere in the Bible is lying is condoned. So lying is wrong. I don't care how you put it and what reason you're putting it, you're doing it. So, and we're going to later see his lie led to some consequences. So, and we got to understand lying, and some people may think telling this little white lie here, this little white lie here is okay, but lying is a sin, and we got to understand God is serious about sin. So we can't, and all sin lead to consequences. We got, and I don't care if it's a instant consequence that you see, or it may be some foregone consequences that you don't see yet, but it's going to eventually happen. So it's consequences of sin. So we can't put sin in categories. We can't say this a little sin, so I can do this sometimes, and this a big sin. We got to say no to sin. We got to avoid it at all costs. Anybody want to elaborate on that? Okay. We'll keep going. Thank you all for your responses. So David receives the holy bread. Now, what do you have here with you? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever you can find. He's talking to Ahimelech here. He said, I don't have any regular bread on hand. The priest answered David, just holy bread, but only if your troops have abstained from sexual activity. Definitely, David answered the priest, whenever I go out to war, women are off limit. That's our standard operating procedure. Even on regular mission, the men's gear is kept holy, being ever more true today. That's even more true today when the mission holder along with the gear. So the priest gave David holy bread because there was no other bread except the bread of the present, which is removed from the Lord's presence and replaced by the warm bread as soon as it is taken away. So here we see Amalek had to go against that the law to give hallowed bread to David because the bread was there. They had the bread once a week on the Sabbath. So a priest in the holy place of the tabernacle, and they put fresh bread out, and they have 12 loaves of bread on this little small table, and they saying they're eating this bread in the presence of the Lord. So they had to keep the bread fresh. And so it usually was eaten by just the priest. And so here, Amalek give David the bread, some of the bread that was taken off of the table and replaced with the fresh bread. So he was given the older bread, which David needed because David wanted to, he needed food. And so here this bread is called showbread. And it symbolized God's presence among his people and that he meets their physical needs. So here we see that David come in, he asked for the bread, and the priest give him the bread. And again, David needed that bread. And so Amalek Amalek, the priest, gave him the bread. And this bread was associated with and to be eaten before the face of God. So you were eating this bread in the presence of God. And so he was given the old bread here. And it was there for the priest. And at this time, it should be given to Aaron and his sons, and they should eat in the holy place. And And so the Amalek, which would give bread, David the old bread, which had been taken from the presence of the Lord. Okay, and so this was one of those ceremonies that they went through, and a religious ceremony. And sometimes we have to get away from religious ceremonies and do what's good. But we're gonna later see that the Amalek, before he helped David, he's gonna also consult with God. Okay. So Amalek showed great hospitality to David. To whom are we to show hospitality? So give me a response. Who do we show hospitality to? And so you just hit answer question, and then you just give me your answers. Okay, let's look at, somebody said to all people, friends and enemy. Good, we supposed to help all. Somebody said people with high rankings. Somebody said everyone really. And somebody said everybody. So yeah, we should be helping not just people in high position, but we should be helping everybody. And sometimes we have to get away from our religious ceremonies and do what God's greatest law was, is to do good and help and love one another, love God and then love people. So sometimes we have to get away from those religious ceremonies. Okay, here David received Goliath's sword. Now one of Saul's servants was there that day, detained in the Lord's presence, and his name was Doeg. He was an Edomite and Saul's head shepherd. David asked Ahimelech, do you have a spear or a sword on hand? I didn't bring my sword or gear with me because the king's mission was urgent. The priest said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine you killed in Elah Valley, is here wrapped in a cloth behind a priestly vest. If you want it, take it, because there are no other swords here. David said, no sword is as good as this one. Give it to me. So here we go. David still doing what? He's still lying and saying that he's on a mission for the king. And so here we see Doeg paying attention, because we're going to see or talk about Doeg in a minute, because that name going to come back again. But you see he's here and he's observing what's going on. So he's paying attention, and that's going to be important in a minute. And so Doeg was a chief of the herdsmen for Saul, and was not an Israelite, but he was an Edomite. And he came from the descendants of Esau, which was Jacob's twin brother. Okay, and so we can understand why David wanted a weapon, and because he's scared for his life and he's on the run. But again, David is here continuing to lie about taking care of the king's business. So again, he's lying. So let's finish up this chapter. So now David flees to Gath. So David got up and continued running for Saul. He went to Achish, Gath's king. Achish's servant said to him, isn't that David, king of the land? He's one of the people that sing about in their dances. Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands. David took these words very seriously and became very frightened of Achish, Gath's king. Okay. So he changed the way he acted. So now David pretends to be insane. So he changed the way he acted and then pretended to be insane while he was with them. He scratched the marks on the doors of the city gates, and he let spit run down his chin. Can't you see he's crazy? Achish asked his servant, why bring him to me? Am I short on insane people that you brought this person to go crazy right in front of me? Do you really think I'm going to let this man enter my house? So here David called himself protecting himself by acting like he was insane or acting crazy. And back then it was a custom for them not to be hard or harm mentally unstable people. So here David pretend to be crazy so that he can protect himself, and it seems to work. So David acted in a strange manner, and we see that it worked, because Achish told the servant, get him away from me, he's crazy. So now that's the end of chapter 21, and we're gonna go over some questions. So if you hit your answer, and you will see the answer, if you hit answer, you will see the answer choices. The first question said, David went to Nob and met Ahimelech, the priest. Trembling, Ahimelech asked David. What did he ask David? And I'm going to look at some of your responses. Did he say, where's Jonathan? Why are you alone? Are you the one who killed Goliath? Are you hungry? Or where's Saul? Which is the correct answer? And you can see your choices if you join the link. You all that came on late, you can join the link. It's in the chat box. So if you join the link, it'll have a PowerPoint right there on your screen, and it's easier to interact. Okay, so here we see the correct answer is why are you alone? That's the first thing that the priest asked him. Why were you alone? Okay, question number 2. David claimed to Ahimelech that he made an appointment with the young men for a certain place, and he asked for, tell me, what did he ask for? Okay. Did he ask a message sent to Saul, more men for mission, 5 trumpets, 5 jars, and 5 torches, 5 loaves of bread, gold, and weapons? What did he ask for? Okay, so the correct answer here would be 5 loaves of bread. So remember, he asked him for bread when he came into the tabernacle. Amalek offered holy bread to David, but only if David means were what? What did he tell him that his means have to be before they can get the holy bread? Did he say had kept themselves from women? Would come to Nob to eat it, would use ceremonial utensils, ate the ordinary bread first, or prayed before they ate it? What did the priest tell them before he gave them the bread? Okay, somebody said pray before they ate, and that's a good thing to do before you eat, is to pray. But the correct answer was he asked, have they kept themselves from women? And you remember David said, yeah, that's our custom. When we go out to battle, we're not with women. So the correct answer was had kept themselves from women. Okay. David asked Ahimelech for a spear and a sword. David claimed he had not bought one because, why did David say he didn't bring one? Was it because the king's business required haste? At first, he didn't need a weapon. He was fleeing from Saul. He had forgotten his own weapon. He had given it to Jonathan. What is the correct answer? Okay, 3 people got that right. It said that the king's business required haste. So that's the reason he didn't have a sword. And so he asked the priest for a sword. Okay, David fled from Saul and went to Achish, king of Gath. The servants of Achish recognized David as one of in the song. Saul had struck down his 1,000. So David as the one in the song. So I need you all to complete the song. Saul has struck down his 1,000, but what's the end of that song? Is it, but David killed Goliath, and David his 10,000, but David is Israel's new king, and David helped him and one day David would kill Saul. And so 3 people got that right. That's correct. The end say, and David his 10,000. And remember, that's that song that they were singing. This one in Saul become jealous of this because of how the people bragged on David. Okay. Because David was afraid of Achish, king of Gath, he pretended to be insane and made marks on the doors of the gate. And what is the response to this? What did he do to play crazy or be insane? He made marks on the door of the gate, and he did something else that made them think that he was crazy. Let me show you response. Did he spit run down his beard, crying out and cutting himself with stones, talking to himself, to pretending to see visions, wearing a man bun? Which one? I'll give you a minute to answer that. Okay, and the correct answer is A. He had spit running down his beard. Okay. So now we're going to start on chapter 22. Good job to you all that answered those questions correctly. Okay. David left Gath and escaped to Adullam fortress. When David's siblings and all of his extended family learned of this, they went to join him there. Everyone who was in trouble, in debt, or in desperate circumstance gathered around David, and he became their leader. Approximately 400 men joined him. Okay, so now we have David in this place of refuge. He's on the run, and he's coming to this cage. He's gonna get away into this cage, and he found himself surrounded by 400 men that he's gonna lead, and these men gonna be part of his mighty men of his armory. Okay, and so and these are probably some unlikely characters that came and joined him, but and it may not be somebody that David would have chosen, but the thing is, these are the ones that God chose for David. So this is what we are dealing with here. So he's here with these 400 men. From there, David, just a minute. From there, David went to Mizpah in Moab. He said to the Moabites, King, please let my father and mother stay with you until I know what God will do to me. So David left his parents with the Moabite king, and they stayed with him the whole time David was in the fortress. So here David brought his parents to stay with the Moab, and I read that maybe David took his parents here because his great-grandmama Ruth was a Moabite. So that may be one reason he felt that he can trust his parents here. And at this point, David didn't know what the story was going to be. He didn't know what to do, but he knew one thing. He knew he was anointed to be the next king of Israel. So all he can do right now was to trust God. And so that is what he started to do. And so then the prophet Gad told David, don't stay in the forest any longer. Leave now and go to the land of Judah. So David left and went to the Herod forest. Okay, so here David been told to leave his own stronghold and go back to the very stronghold of Saul. But again, he had to trust God, and he did what he was told. And so Saul learned that David and his soldiers had been located. Saul was sitting under the tamarisk tree on the hill of Gilboa, spear in hand, with all his servants waiting on him. He said to them, listen up, Benjaminites. Will Jesse's son give fields and vineyards to each one and every one of you? Will he make each one of you commanders of units of 1,000 men, or commanders of units of 100? Is this why all of you have conspired against me? No one informed me that my son made a covenant with Jesse's son. Not one of you is concerned about me or informed me that my own son set my servant against me in an ambush. But that's what has happened on today. So here, of course, Saul started trying to play victim. And so he asking these men if a man from Judah could get him wealth to the men from the tribe of Benjamin. So he's asking them, and he's going to give you wealth. But I noticed one thing, he never addressed it. He addressed David as Jesse's son, or nobody's son, because nobody knew him. He never did say the man who killed Goliath. He could have addressed him as that, or he could have said the man who killed 200 Philistines, or the man that was anointed by God. But no, he wanted to address him as the Jesse's son, somebody that nobody knew. But one thing about it, it doesn't matter who knows you and what they know about you, as long as God knows who you are and God knows your name. So that's the most important thing right here. So Saul is trying to play on the people's emotion. So Doeg the Edomite, who was standing with Saul's servant, respond, I saw Jesse's son go to the Amalek, Ahitub's son in Nob. And Amalek questioned the Lord for David and gave him provision as well as the sword of Goliath the Philistine. So here we see that this kind of confirms here that Amalek, the priest, questioned the Lord for David. So he asked God about what to do before he helped David. So here that kind of confirms that. And so Doeg, the Edomite, here he's snitching and he's telling Saul what's going on and what he saw. So he kind of let him know that he was one of David's accomplices. And so let me see, we got a comment here. Okay, Miss Sharon said amen. Okay. So the king then sent for the priest Amalek, Ahitub's son, and all his extended family, who were the priests at Nob, and all of them came to the king. Listen here, son of Ahitub, the son of Ahitub, Saul said. Yes, sir, he replied. Saul said to him, why have you conspired against me? You were Jesse's son, giving him food and a sword and a questioning God for him, so that he is now against me, waiting in the ambush, which is what has happened today. Amalek answered the king, out of all of your servants, who is trustworthy as David, he is the king's son-in-law, does whatever you ask, and is well respected in your house. Was this the first time I questioned God for him? Of course not. But please, the king shouldn't accuse me, his servant, or anyone in my father's household of any wrongdoing, because your servant knew nothing whosoever about this matter. Okay, so now Saul is questioning Amalek after Doeg had told what the priest had done to help David. He gave him food, he gave him bread, then he gave him a sword. So here he's questioning him. You gonna answer him? Help him, and he's trying to ambush me. And the king, and the priest answer said, "This one of your trustworthy servants. Haven't I questioned God about him before? For him before? Of course not." So here, this again let us know that he asked God before he gave David bread and the sword. Okay, are there any comments so far? Any comments? Okay. But the king said, you will be executed. Amalek, you and all of your father's household. The king ordered the guards waiting on him. Go ahead and kill the Lord's priests because they're joined up with David too. They knew he was on the run, but didn't inform me. But the king's servants were unwilling to lift a hand to attack the Lord's priests. So right here, we see that even his servants are scared to touch the Lord's priests. So, and they have a right to. The king then ordered Doeg, you go attack the priest. So Doeg the Edomite went and attacked the priest, killing 85 men who wore the linen priest vest that day. He put the whole priestly city a knob to the sword. Men, women, children, infants, even oxen, donkeys, and sheep. Excuse me. So here we see that Saul has moved so far away from God, because at one point, if you go back to I think it was in Samuel 15, Saul was scared to touch people of God or touch the people of God, but now here he didn't think twice about it. So he wasn't reluctant to murder. So here we see it shows how far he had gotten from God. So but even so Saul's servants feared God more than Saul, and they refused to murder the priest. So we also see that here. So here I got a question. I want y'all to respond. Why do you think God will allow 85 innocent priests to be killed? And I mean, there's no wrong or right answer. And I hope some of you grown-ups can unmute and answer that. Or if you join, you can just answer the question and it'll come up on the screen. Again, it won't give you his name. Your name.
Sister John.
Yes.
I was thinking it's something dealing with God. I think that was in class Wednesday night, last Wednesday or something. He allowed certain things to take place.
Right.
And I think about that when he could have stopped, but he allowed it to take place. Then I think about free will. I think about how people get so upset right now when they say, why did God allow them to get mad? And I'm angry with God. Why would a God that is good allow my loved one to get killed, or, this or that or whatnot? And what happened was, it goes back as we was talking last week. He allowed it, and then some things it just take its course, if I'm not mistaken, or if I'm explaining it correctly. But that's like you said earlier, no right or wrong answer, but Pastor really explained, and he began to say, he used a perfect good example. He said, why would that if a person have a gun and about to commit suicide, God stepped in and he blocked that person, but didn't do the other. But we also have to remember, God's ways is not like ours. Neither is our thoughts like his. His ways are higher than ours. We may not never be able to understand why he allows certain things to take place.
And that's correct. Thank you, Missionary Williams, for your response. Are there anybody else? And I agree, God, and he allows it to happen maybe for his greater purpose. And he may have a greater purpose, and it all work together for the good of those who love him. So, and then again, somebody said, because this is an evil world. Yeah, we are living in a sinful world. So bad things do happen to good people because of this evil world. So there's no right or wrong answer. So thank you, Missionary, for that. Anybody else? And one thing we got to remember, serving God is not a ticket, or not is not going to
I just want to make a comment. We have to understand, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that missionary Williams said. But I just want to say, you know, we have to understand that the word tells us we will never fully understand everything that God does. Okay.
Amen.
But we got to hold on to our faith that everything that he does is for my good. I can't see it right now, but God knows what he's doing. And he allowed things to happen. That's true. He allows our loved ones to leave us. That's true. But we got to hold on that no matter what has happened, he is still on the throne. He is still in charge. And we got to learn to lean and depend on him and say, God, no matter what, I still trust you.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Henry. And that's so true.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was about to say something else. And I love this scripture. This is in Romans 8:18. For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. God has something prepared greater for us. We know as saints of God, we're not here to stay. We know this. So if they died, they died. They standing on the right hand of Jesus now. But we know as saints of God that our home is, we're just visitors. So we know persecution is going to come. We know death is going to come. But we also know that goes back what you said. Sometimes the good have to suffer with the bad. And just like the 3 Hebrew boys, if God don't deliver, we know that he is well and able to deliver. We're still not going to bow down. So when they were faced with these particular, when they were faced with death, and was it right? Of course not. But we know that if we die, to be absent from this body is to be present with the Lord, especially when you are in Christ, you know, because no longer I who live. Because if they did it to Jesus, who are we? We're not greater than him. So the Bible tells us that we're going to have many afflictions, but God going to deliver us. And whether he deliver us out of their hands and we escape out of their hands, or whether we be delivered if they persecute us or kill us. But we know for a fact we live so we can live again. We're not here for forever.
Amen. I totally agree. So we should find comfort in that God promised us the ultimate reward. So we have to keep our mind on those heavenly things and not these earthly things. And we also got to remember that serving God, being in a relationship with God and being saved is not a ticket to say that we're going to always have wealth, good health, success, no pain. And that's not the case. And we got to understand that we do go through things. And like Sister Henry say, we may not understand all things. The Bible says we won't understand all things. But we got, at the end of the day, we got to trust God. We have to trust God. And so that's the biggest thing, trusting God. When we're going through, I got one of my sisters, she's the next oldest to me on my dad's side. And I can remember like yesterday, because she was married and her husband, and he was like a brother to us. And I'll never forget, because this was one of the closest person that have ever died in our family. So it was very, very touching. I'll never forget, they had their daughter and then they had a son. It was in July. And 5 days after he was born, she came home from the hospital, and he was outside playing basketball with my brother and just fell dead. And I mean, young guy. And oh my God, she went through so much, and it just tore the whole family up. We were just so distraught about it. And now, you know, and that's been years ago. And the other night we were praying together with my family, and she was talking about all the things she had been through. And she was like, much as I went through when I lost my husband, she was saying that was just one of the darkest time of her life. And it just amazed me that she said, but at this point now in my life, I wouldn't change a thing, because I knew God did that for a reason. And just to get to that point where you can trust God, when you're going through it, it's hard to trust it or hard to see what he's doing, but sometimes we get on down the road, we can look back and see what God was doing in our lives. Somebody said, oh my God, this lesson is helping me with what I'm going through. And that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Anybody else? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say, finish up the chapter. It said, but one of the sons of Amalek, her Hiptub's son, escaped. His name was Abiathar. Abiathar, that's his name. His name was Abiathar, and he fled to David. Abiathar reported to David that Saul had slaughtered the Lord's priest. David told Abiathar, the day when Doeg the Edomite was there, I knew that he would tell Saul everything. I am to blame for the death of your father's family. Stay with me and don't be afraid. The one who seeks my life now seeks yours too, but you will be safe with me. And so now here, David seeing the consequences of his lies, because at this point, I think him lying back and asking the priest for help, food, and asking the priest for the sword, those lies came back and put the priests in jeopardy, and now caused them 85 priests to be killed. So now we see the consequences of David's lies. Anybody else got anything else to say? Okay, so we got some more questions we're going to go through to finish up chapter 22. So you all that have the link, you can answer those questions. It say, where did David escape at the beginning of chapter 22? Where did David escape? Was it behind a tree, the desert of Zippor, with in the cave? So the correct answer is the cave of Adullam. Okay, it was in the cave of Adullam. Okay, you remember he went in the cave, and this is where he got those 400 men. Okay. About how many men, and I just answered this question, men joined David at this place? How many men joined David at this place? So I just answered that question for you. Okay, it was 400 men that joined David at this place. When David escaped to the cave of Adullam, who gathered there with him? Who gathered there with him? Okay, the correct answer is his family and everyone who was in distress, debt, or bitter in soul. You remember that's how he got those 400 men. Okay. With whom did David leave his parents? With whom did David leave his parents? Waiting on some response, people who with the link and have the PowerPoint on their phone or their device. Who did he leave his parents? Okay, he left his parents with the king of Moab, because remember, Ruth, his great-grandmama, was a Moabite, so he felt that they would be safe there with the king of Moab. Who told David to return to Judah? Who told David to return to Judah? Okay, the answer here is the prophet Gad. Okay. Who told Saul that David visit Amalek? Who told Saul that David visit Amalek? And I know we know this. Okay, somebody got it correct. Okay, it was Doeg the Edomite. Okay, Doeg the Edomite. Remember, he's going to be the one that killed those 85 priests. How does Amalek defend himself when Saul says he betrayed Saul? Okay. How do he defend himself when they say Saul, he betrayed Saul? The question, how did he defend himself? Okay, somebody listening say he said he inquired of God for David before. And that's what he said. He said, didn't I inquire of God about him before, and it's one of your great servants? Okay. Who killed the 85 priests in the whole city of Nob? And I just gave you that answer there. Okay, somebody got that correct. There was Noah, the Edomite. Doeg the Edomite. Okay. Who escaped the killing of the priests at Nob? Who escaped? You remember there was one person that escaped when they were killing the 85 priests. Okay, so 2 people said Amalek. No, you remember Amalek didn't escape. He was one that was killed. Okay. Okay, somebody got it right. It's a Beathar. Beathar, you remember, he's the son of the priest of Amalek, and he gets away. Okay, and so he go and find David, and he's the one that tell David that everyone is dead. They done killed 85 priests. They killed the whole town of Nob. Okay. Last question. According to David, who was responsible for the death of all the person of Amalek's father's house? Who did David say was who did David say was responsible for the death? Who did David say was responsible for the death? Anybody else got an opinion? Who did David say was responsible? Okay, the correct answer is David. David said he was responsible because he deceived the priests and put them in danger. So David put the blame on him. If you remember back in verse 22, he talked about it was his fault that your family is dead. And you remember, Beathar got away, and Beathar gonna come to David, and David tell him to stay with him, and because they want to kill me, they gonna want to kill you, but you stay with me and you'll be safe. And later, when David become king, he makes Beathar the new high priest, and he remains as the new high priest in that position during David's entire reign. So he later becomes the high priest, and he stick with David, and God is with them, and David later become king. Okay, and that's the end of chapter 21 and 22. I hope you all learned something from the chapter, what's going on, and continue to follow David's life as Sister Riley teach youth the Bible study, and learn from David and what David went through. And we got to understand David lied to the priest, and there was consequences when you sin. That's one thing I want you to walk away tonight knowing, that when you sin, there are consequences, and you're going to see this in David's life later on when he become king and how he gets his wife and killed Bathsheba's husband, you're going to see, and there are consequences. So even when you become saved, you got to understand there are consequences to your actions. Okay, are there any other comments or anybody else have anything to say?
Good job, Sister Jones.
Thank you, Sister Riley. Okay, thank you, Sister Knight.
Great job, Sister Knight.
Thank you,
Good job.
Missionary. All right.
Awesome. Awesome.
All righty, you all. So that's all that we have on tonight. Make sure you join tomorrow we'll be in the sanctuary for adult prayer and adult Bible study. And we had a good time on last Wednesday, and Thursday we'll be back on Zoom and Facebook for prayer, and back in the sanctuary on Sunday morning. We will see you all then. You all have a great night, and God bless you.
Lord, you, Sister Knight Jones.
Thank you, Sis
Good
Moses.
job, Sister Knight Jones.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you, Sis Joan. Stop sharing. And end it here. Okay.